So I've lived a pretty charmed life. I was a perfect baby. I came out of the womb and I was already acing tests. I'm not even sure what APGAR stands for, but I got 100 or a 10 or whatever. I started school at the age of 4 and I excelled anyway. I joined lots of clubs and activities and I was pretty good at a lot of them. When I got to high school, I got pretty good grades without even trying, and I got into my top choice college with a scholarship to boot, and I had a great time in college. Who doesn't? I ended up getting an internship in advertising that led to a career in advertising that was way cooler, even back then, than any other job that my friends had. I decided to leave advertising and become a lawyer because, frankly, I needed a challenge. I got married at 25, had a beautiful baby girl at 30, and we had an amazing life. We lived on the water, drove great cars, threw great parties. It was a blast. And at 30, I decided to start my own business, and I've had a great ride ever since. Sounds like a great life, doesn't it? Maybe even perfect. The problem is, it's a lie. Well, the elements of it are true, but so much of it is filtered, so many relevant parts are omitted, that frankly, lying by omission, it's still a lie. But don't we do that all the time? On social media, with our friends, with our colleagues. We tell them what we think they want to hear, or how you think they want to see you. And we show them a highlight reel because we're programmed that getting likes and validation for being somehow the best version of yourself is the only way to live. And it's not true. Speaking of the truth, would you like to hear that? So I was a ginormous baby. You could ask my mom, but she'll tell you actually without asking. I was 10 pounds, 1 ounce. Whoa, yeah, natural. Sorry, Mom. And when I was born, they hadn't found out what I was, other than ginormous. And so as she's giving birth, she just wants to know, is it a boy or a girl? And all they kept saying was, wow, look at its hands. Oh my gosh, look at the size of its feet. Like I was a puppy. And I ended up in the NICU for jaundice, and I didn't even fit in the bins. But the nurses loved me because they're so used to preemies and not being able to really hold the babies. Here they have like a 6-month-old to hang out with. And that weight was a little bit foreshadowing of what was to come because I'm going to blame this on my mom. She's an amazing cook, and I was a really good eater. So when I started school, I had a little extra weight on me. And I was also pretty intelligent, and I answered every question. And nothing makes you a target for bullies more than being smart and fat. So in 5th grade, I signed up for a pizza making class, which in retrospect doesn't seem like the smartest idea for a child who's being bullied for being overweight. And we were finished up and we're sitting there and I can see the long tables and all the classmates around me and we're eating the fruits of our labors. And this delightful child in front of me decides to say, after the instructor had let us know it's over and our parents are picking us up, it's not over until the fat lady sings. And then she thrust a microphone in my face and said, sing, fat lady. I was 11. It's funny how you remember all of the really negative things that happened to you, but it's hard sometimes to remember those moments of kindness. In 6th grade, I finally made some friends, which was pretty awesome, but then they broke up with me on the playground, and I never felt so alone and empty. I got lucky because in 7th grade, I was able to transfer schools, and it was the most amazing reprieve. But frankly, it was too late. The damage to my self-esteem was done, and no matter how many people liked me, how many boys liked me, how good I did in school, how I looked, I always felt ugly and fat and worthless. And that went on throughout high school until I got to college, where I ended up dropping a lot of weight really quickly, and I contribute that to the Syracuse Mountains. But then I discovered 3 a.m. pizza, and I didn't realize until today how pivotal pizza has been in my life. And I ended up fluctuating in weight, and I developed an eating disorder to combat it. One that I would battle for 10 years because I wouldn't love myself until I fit in the right pair of jeans. I ended up meeting a lot of really bad men, and I made really poor choices in relationships, which I'm not sure if you're aware that there's a correlation between low self-esteem and bad choices in relationships, but there is. And I ended up taking a test a month before my 20th birthday, one that you don't get graded on, one that typically has 2 pink lines, or 1, and mine had 2. I never questioned whether to keep my son, and I wish this part of the story was when I said everything changed and I loved myself, and that he changed that for me, but he couldn't, and he didn't. Because as much as I loved him and love him, I still hated me. I met my now ex-husband at 25, and it was a whirlwind romance. He was a savior and an escape in one. He showed up on our first date with a brand new Mercedes and always had fresh roses in my room. And we went to expensive dinners and great vacations. And it seemed like a Disney fairy tale for a single mom in law school. Until it wasn't. And there's a reason why I tell people to date for a while to see all sides of someone. Because I'm not sure if you're confused about this, but 6 weeks is not enough time. We were engaged in 6 weeks and married within 10 months, and it was good for a minute. Until his demons overtook our marriage and nearly broke me and my children. And there's a lot that you do for the sake of your children, but never at the expense of them. And my daughter, she was only 1 at the time, and she was oblivious and perfect. But my son was older, and he saw the toxicity and felt the toxicity, and I left. And I often wonder, would I have left if it weren't for him? And I hope I would say yes, but I don't know. I have spent the last 7 years coming back to myself. I have embraced therapy. I have studied yoga and meditation. Most of all, I've changed the way that I think. I know that I can make choices to better myself. And I am not ignorant to the fact that I am in a privileged place to be able to make those choices. But I've learned that you cannot be happy in hell, no matter what you do. It's a little bit of a contrast to my first story, wasn't it? How many identified with me more having heard my real story? How many kind of wanted to punch me in the face when I first started talking? Admit it, it's okay. That's what we do all the time, though. We're posting things and we're saying things and giving these highlight reels that all they're creating is resentment. We crave reality and authenticity and the truth, but we don't give it. We gush about our relationships on Facebook when they're really falling apart. We post pictures with people we don't even like. We pretend that our kids are perfect and that parenting is effortless. We buy things that we can't afford, but we make sure everybody knows about it. And we create these illusions. 75% of people have admitted to lying on social media. Every 10 minutes in a conversation, people lie 3 times on average. Right? But why? Why do we do that? Why do we think that suddenly all of us isn't enough? That telling people actually who we are isn't enough? I do relationships, that's what I do, that require authenticity and vulnerability and showing who you are and stopping the cycle of falsity. I get it that it's hard to be vulnerable. This doesn't happen overnight where you start reading the chapters that you don't normally read aloud. I've shared things today that I've never shared before on a stage. But you have to get to a point where you realize that people won't love you less because you share who you are. In fact, they love you more and they connect to you because they get you. I believe that part of our self-love epidemic is because we are sharing things that aren't true, and then those things are getting validated, right? We're getting liked for the things that aren't true or are just our highlight reel, thereby perpetuating the thought that I wasn't enough before. I think our self-love grows when we start to play the role of ourself. I was lucky enough to spend the last 10 years of my career on television, and I was able to be on a show called Married at First Sight for a couple seasons. And when I left, I got thousands of messages from fans saying, wow, I'm gonna miss how real you were. I'm gonna miss how authentic you were. And listen, reality television is what it is. But I put my heart and soul into it. And I was happy that people could see that I was being authentic, that I was being vulnerable, that I truly cared about the people that I was working with. Large, shallow networks feed your ego. Small, deep, authentic connections feed your soul. So how do we become more authentic? How do we start telling our stories? And this isn't because I want you to go on Facebook and start complaining about everything. That's not what it's about. It's about being real. And it starts with being vulnerable, taking off your mask, showing who you truly are. I don't get up here because I'm a masochist and start telling you all the things in my closet. I get up here because every time that I share something about myself that's deeply personal and something that I've transformed through, I connect with someone who's going through or went through the same thing, who knows that they can go through the fire and survive. And I'm not even pretending that my life was so hard, because I know everyone's stories are even more impactful than mine, but we're not sharing them because we're afraid. So how can you start to be more vulnerable? How can you start to share parts of yourself? Whether you're in leadership or you're in a partnership, you have to show someone who you are. How can someone truly love you if they don't know you? How can you truly be loved by someone if they don't know who you are? Second, check your why. Check your why. Why do you place so many filters? And don't you take away my Instagram filters. That's not what I'm talking about. But why do you filter so much of the truth? Why do you lie by omission? Why do we not read those chapters aloud? I had a client come into me for help with dating, and she showed me her profile, and I was like, well, who's this? I didn't recognize her. She had so many filters. She used face tuning apps and all these different things. I mean, those little ears and noses are really cute, but be yourself. And I asked her, after reading her profile, which didn't describe her, and seeing those pictures, I said, why would you do that? And she said, because I'm not enough. I'm not enough as I am. Whew. Check your why. Work on your why. If you don't shine a light on it, you can't heal it. And demand more from each other. Relationships are our greatest tool in evolution. If you see your friends or loved ones putting on a front or a mask because they think that's what's needed, call them out on it, do it lovingly, but call them out on it. Let them know that they are enough just as is and they can share. Because the more that we create spaces to be real, the more reality we actually achieve. And lastly, be patient. This is not something that happens overnight. I didn't start spilling my guts on my first stage. It takes a while and it takes a little bit of courage. But you all can do it. Be patient with yourself and be patient with others. So I've shared my story. Now it's time to tell your story and let people love you, all of you. Imagine that. Thank you.